Hey guys, it's Ben Nessering, and just so everyone's aware, this is an old script, but still an accurate script for this. There hasn't been any new episodes of this show, so there's that. But it's an old script, and I'm just remaking the video because I do not feel like going and editing the old one to kind of be more not advertiser friendly, use less actual footage from the show. Point is, this is a remake of an older video, hopefully with a little bit better voice stuff. Yeah, I doubt that too. And a little bit better editing. Anyway, hope y'all enjoy. Now, I don't make a lot of top 10 videos, you know this, so I'm not great at it, and yet here we are. Partially because it's easy, but also because I actually really do enjoy the nightmare frames in Code Geass Akito the Exiled. In fact, I would say that this show has the best nightmare frame scenes in the entire franchise. Therefore, for this list, I will be listing my favorite nightmare frame designs from that series. Now, I should set some rules. Firstly, since there aren't a lot to choose from that are unique, subvariants are allowed. Therefore, all the different Alexanders are game, but I won't distinguish between individual units of one subclass unless there is only one member of that subclass. So, for instance, the Alexander type O2s, I will not be distinguishing between like Ainos or Laylas or any of those. So, those will be together. But Akito's Alexander Libre is the only member of that subclass, so that will be that will be a case when an individual unit of a subclass is mentioned because it's the only representative of that subclass. Secondly, no nightmare frames that appear in other shows, unless they have a unique subvariant. So therefore, the admittedly awesome Glasgow, Sutherlands, and Lancelot will not be included. But I am mentioning them here, so there you go. However, the Sutherland Drone and Gloucester Swordsman are up for grabs. Lancelot is not. I don't care if it has a new Blaze Luminous generator. It's the same frame. Finally, this is subjective. So, if you disagree, that's okay. Let me know your favorites in the comments. Also, since I'll be doing this video on these nightmare frames individually, this will be more opinion-based, talking in this video. I'll keep it brief. I'm not going to go into all the specifics about like how that, all the details. I'll save that for the War Machines video on them all. This is going to just be more just me talking about a bunch of anime designs I like. Anyway, let's get into it. Number 10, the Sutherland Drone. These don't appear for very long, which is why this is going to be a very short segment. But I love the idea of drone nightmare frames, and the Sutherlands aren't the only ones in Akito the Exiled. But let's face it, the Liverpools and the Alexander drones are only drones if they have a controlled unit put into them. So they're not as good. Sutherland drones, way cooler. It has the menacing look to its fact sphere that looks like it's wearing like a gas mask looking thing. With various parts sticking out of it, and the removed cockpit block, which gives it a cool skeletal, bare bones look. And it's still a very capable unit, something that the Alexanders and Liverpools especially, you don't really show, as they give W0 quite the fight on board Gallia Grande. Number 9, Ahura Mazda. I used to not like this massive nightmare frame, but after having rewatched the show once or twice, it's grown on me. And now it's here on my list. It's not high, but it's still there. And this featured in the same battle as the Sutherland drones, piloted by a grief-stricken and bloodthirsty Ashley Ashra. So a normal Ashley Ashra. The scene itself in which he takes on Akito is itself worth its own video, as epic as a scene as it is. The frame itself is the typical really big villain nightmare, but it wasn't the final boss frame, so I appreciated that. Also, its Schroeder steel is important to the next entry. Anyway, overall, the frame itself is pretty cool. but it's a pretty typical uber big mech. Not much I have to say about it here other than that. But looks should say enough. Onward! Alright, this one's had its name changed since I wrote this script, but I can't be bothered to go look up what its new name is. So, number 8, the Alexander Red Ogre. Speaking of Schroeder Steel, whatever that is, this Alexander variant was also piloted by Ashley Ashra when he joined W0. Yes, this is basically a really custom Alexander with a sick red paint scheme and a lot of blades. Again, video on it in the future, but if you want to see why it's on this list, go watch the episode it appears in. It does the talking for me. Number 7, Gracchus. This nightmare is in one of my favorite scenes. I mean, it is in more than that scene, as Jean is a fairly main character in the show. But in that scene. Essentially, this is the nightmare frame that lost out to the Gloucester in a nebulous procurement design competition a la 1900s army looking for a new pistol. You know the type. Anyway, it has a lot of interesting and unique features like extendable arms, Jesus Christ, and a sniper rifle. And it's just a cool design. It is definitely not in the same league as Lancelot, though, as Jean found out when she thought she could take on Suzaku with some schmucks in Sutherland's and herself. Oh dear. Number 6, Vercingetorix. Yes, the nightmare where the horse's ass pilot becomes the actual horse's ass. Yeah, I couldn't make this up. I couldn't do it. That would be enough to make it onto this list, to be quite honest. But it's also got a unique design with a really cool weapon, and is part of some of the best mech fights in the series. And actually, through ancillary media, has an interesting story. And I don't care because big shiny gold and giant gear steampunk axe thing. It is the same kind of imposing as Lancelot, but in a different way. And I would have loved to have seen Lancelot fight Vercingetorix. That would have been epic. Number 5, Alexander Type 02, which I will be referring to as Alexander Type 2 from here on out. But if you're going to look the thing up, Type 02. Don't type 02, type 02. These are basically just a recolored Alexander, a la Transformers. And I will say that they are part of the best fight in the entire series, W0 versus Ashra Force. However, the reason they aren't higher is because they have an upgraded form, Alexander Valiant, that I like much better. We'll get there. However, I will say that these are solid designs, and if I was listing the best fights, they would be a part of the winning fight. And they do introduce the idea of a custom frame for each of the characters, including a command variant for Layla that I believe is the only one like that in the show. So, very cool. Number 4, the Alexander Liberté. I have a soft spot for this frame, even though it doesn't have a ton of screen time. And the fight it ends up being disabled. It is essentially the original Alexander, but modified specifically for Akito, and it's used in his final fight duel against Shin. It's a solid design, but I wish we could have seen it fight Lancelot instead of Gracchus. Of course, this is just gonna, a lot of the times I say this, it's just me wishing that Lancelot had more screen time. Julius Kingsley and Suzaku were criminally underused. Anyway, number 3, the Alexander Valiant. These are the aforementioned variants of the Alexander that I like the best, save one. They are essentially Alexander Type 2s on steroids with bomb-ass color schemes. And I love that, because that is like the epitome of Code Geass. Strap bigger weapons to it and painted it an awesome color scheme. That's all you need to do. God, this franchise is more like Transformers than I thought it was. Anyway, um, where was I? I got distracted. I love the color schemes. Love the scenes they're in, even though they don't get enough screen time. Basically, they take all the cool stuff about the Type 2 and make it even cooler. Number 2, the Gloucester Swordsman. The penultimate nightmare frame on the list is the Gloucester Swordsman. These are the opponents in the W0 versus Astra Force. Actually, they pop up quite a bit. I think each one of the 4 Holy Orders has their own custom variant, but I could be wrong. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments. What they are essentially is a modified Gloucester used by several different pilots. They're Gloucester with a touch of Lancelot. More of a touch of Lancelot than what you see in the original show when they put swords on them. And if you watch any of their scenes, you're going to see what I mean. They are really awesome enemy frames for W0 to fight. They have amazing scenes. They are what I wish all of the rest of Code Geass's Nightmare Frame battles could be. And they show off the 3D animation of the frames beautifully. And number 1, this shouldn't be a surprise, Alexander is the main frame used by Akito, even though you see it used by other people in the very beginning. But that means it has a lot of awesome fight scenes and features. I won't dwell on all of this, but I will say that it's been part of the best fights and the most emotional scenes, and the brain raid system is a fascinating thing that I hope the creators do something with in the future, please. It's awesome. I wish it had gotten to fight Lancelot. Again, me complaining that Lancelot didn't appear more. I love this thing. It has some amazing scenes. Go watch the show. And actually, in general, go watch the show. It's a great show. If you're a fan of the original anime, you'll like this. And there we have it. My top 10 nightmare frames from Code Geass Akito the Exiled. Let me know what your favorites are in the comments, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.